What damage could be caused to locals if US nuclear weapons return to Britain?
I think, first of all, we have to recognize that there are 1,000 US foreign bases scattered around the world. And these are ordinary foreign bases. They're not all nuclear, but they all cause tremendous damage. They take over the land and water resources that could be used for life, not death. The noise of the aircraft and in the seas is horrendous for people. But there's also traffic accidents, sexual violence, drugs. That happens at most US foreign bases. But if nuclear weapons came back here to Britain, there'll be air pollution caused by the takeoff of even more planes as they do their practice flights. And then, of course, there are the radiation risks. I don't know whether people will remember, but there were 2 major nuclear accidents at Lakenheath that we were finally made aware of decades later. Now, the UK was so worried about these accidents that it decided to take immediate steps, deny everything, block US authorities from ordering evacuations if an accident occurred. This problem of the secrecy around nuclear weapons is terrible. For instance, we have a lot of US bases. We had loads in the 80s and 90s, but we still don't publicly know what is in the Memorandum of Understanding between the US and Britain.
That sounds horrific. Do you think US nuclear weapons stationed in the UK could make the UK more secure or less secure?
It is obvious. It will make it less secure. And not just for us. The whole world is less secure with the new nuclear arms race going on. Lakenheath hosting nuclear weapons makes it even more of a prime target. If just one Russian warhead was dropped on Lakenheath, it would be catastrophic for the local community and environment, and the radioactive impact would spread far and wide depending on the wind. And that's only the start. If nuclear weapons start being used, they're most likely to be used against the major cities, killing millions. US nuclear weapons here undermines our safety and any prospects for global peace. The US is the only country to locate nuclear weapons outside its own borders, and this major increase in NATO's capacity to wage nuclear war in Europe is dangerously destabilizing. Their return will increase global tensions and put Britain on the front line in a NATO-Russia war.
You mentioned Russia. That's what I'm going to ask. The official excuse for the US to station nukes in the UK is the threat from Russia. Which poses a bigger threat, Russia or US nukes? Is the US just fanning anti-Russia flames to excuse its moves?
But the fact that the US is bringing its nuclear weapons to us here in Britain is a dangerous escalation. We should be negotiating for peace. Listen to all the sides. What is it that drives the wars around here? Well, the main driver, I think, is actually the arms industry and weapons and how much money that makes in these big, corporations and all the rest of it. So we have to kind of get a hold of that, It's actually part of a whole outdated and catastrophic mindset of militaristic empire building that the USA and the UK are still mired in, and other major countries are, buying into all of this. Because it is about resources, who gets the water or the minerals or the forests or whatever. We've just expanded right up to the borders. So we are now in the middle of the beginning of 4 months of huge exercises, military exercises in the Scandinavian countries and right up against the Russian border. That is putting pressure on Russia, and we're doing the same thing with China. By sending, USA is sending loads and loads of ships and building up all around China, and all of these US bases around. That is not what we need in the world today. It is a huge escalation. I don't know how we're going to stop NATO, but we have to stop NATO.
Do you think the British government will pay heed to your demand? What will you do to stop the US bringing nuclear weapons to the UK?
The British government don't pay heed to anyone except their funders and their supporters, the corporations and big businesses. who they make money out of. The British government do not pay heed to their people. We don't live in a democracy. We have had a failing democracy for a very long time. It's horrible. So no, they won't take heed to us, but other people here might. You know, we have some influence, but we're not going to have much influence unless loads of people join us and sustain the pressure by constant direct action to disrupt the flights from taking off.